Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So today we are on episode 37 already. I can't believe we're already on episode 37. And so far, season two is going great. I've brought, past guests to my channel, and I also have been bringing new guests to my channel, which speaking of new guests, we actually have a new guest here today. So this is Jay Walker, and this is his first time here on the channel. And something that's really cool about this episode is a first for me, is this is like an international podcast recording because he is actually way over in the UK. So I definitely am glad that we were able to make this work with our time, timing schedule and like our time zone range because he is 6 hours ahead of me. So, trying to make it work for both of us to where it doesn't interfere with our daily schedules, whether it's being with family or work or, whatever. So I'm definitely glad that we were able to make this work. So welcome to the channel.
Hey man, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here in your midst, bro. Yeah, a little bit about me, Jay Walker, as the man said. I'm a Christian content creator. I'm a rap artist and producer as well. Only Christian content, of course. But yeah, that's a little about me. And yeah, I'm based over here in London, London boy.
Oh man, I want to go to London so bad. I actually had the opportunity to almost go to London. Like back in May, I had the opportunity to go to London and Paris, but it wasn't working out because I was going to go on a group travel kind of trip here from the States,
Yeah.
and it just didn't work out. So I ended up going to Ireland instead, which is close, but
Yeah, man,
not
you're so
in
close.
yeah, I'm so close
Did
because
you
I
go
was
by plane?
I did. Yeah, I
That
flew
means you
from
probably just flew straight over it,
yeah, probably so.
huh?
I know it's like unfortunately, that's kind of like yeah, London is one big place I want to go to, and then also like Italy. I would love to go to Italy, and I'm sure I've flown over Italy because I went to Greece a few years ago, so I'm sure I flew over Italy as well. It's like so in a way I was sort of in Italy, but not really. Just flew over the
Hey,
skies. So So yeah, Liza, that is Jay Walker. I'm so glad that he is here today, and I know he will be on future episodes. So I look forward to having him back here on my channel here in the near future. So, anyways, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know what this topic is. So this topic is something that I feel like everyone or most of everyone can relate to. The topic is called popularity. So popularity can come in many forms. It has different people can call it different names, whether it's fame, like whether you want to be famous, of course, popular, just obviously, and then seeking attention, like there's different or nowadays, like here recently, I've been hearing the word like clout, like getting clout. So there's like a few different terminologies that you can throw into the equation of popularity. So I actually have a few questions I'm going to ask Jay, and then I'm going to answer these questions as well. But I'm going to allow him to answer these questions first. So I think we are going to go ahead and get into this first question. So my first question is, have you ever had a moment, whether it's when you were a kid or as an adult, where you wanted to be popular or famous?
I think, like intrinsically, I think I've always known I was a bit weird. It's probably the first thing to say. And that I think knowing that, I think created kind of a weird counterbalance where it's almost like to be popular, you need to stand out, right? But in order to be down with the popular folks, you need to fit in. So it's like there's this weird kind of cyclical nature to it where I always felt like an awkward balance between trying to fit in and then wanting to stand out. And then in my younger days, which I think is just a typical adolescent thing, you're more focused on fitting in. So definitely at a younger age and whatnot, I kind of had that focus, but I kind of knew I didn't, if I'm being like 100% honest, where I think I just grew up at kind of light speed just because of like family circumstance, single mother, all of that kind of thing. So then when I was kind of placed around certain kids where they were kind of still at their kid stage, whereas in my head, like I'm 5 years old, but I'm the man of the house. like in my mind. So it just didn't connect, didn't relate. So like by the time I was like 7, I was like a selective mute, essentially, where it wasn't that I couldn't talk. I just didn't feel any level of relatability to children. And then you know how adults treat you when you're 7, man. They treat you like,
Hmm.
no one's taking you seriously. And I was like in a life phase, at least in my own mind, where I was like ready to be taken seriously. So yeah, I kind of abstained and kind of knew I didn't fit in when I was younger. And then by the time I kind of got a bit more sense and got older, like first big social media thing I think I got into was like MySpace for all the dinosaurs. You remember? Yeah, and then that as was like my first social media kind of popularity experience stage for me, man.
Yeah, I remember those MySpace days definitely back in my teenage years. I used to have a MySpace, and I know this is off topic, but speaking of MySpace, like I used to miss like doing your top 8 or top 10 favorite people on your profile. I was thinking like, did I make somebody's top 10? Did I make somebody's
Honestly, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there are some really good things about MySpace that I miss, like that. And then also you can like add music to your profile. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty awesome. And you can have your own kind of background to it. So yeah, I definitely can relate. That was like my first social media that I started having as well was MySpace. And then I guess I could even tie into popularity because you're just basically what I just said. Like, you're thinking, oh, am I gonna be in somebody's top 8 favorite, people, and or am I gonna be in somebody's top 4? If you made it to the top 4, you made it. So,
Does
so
that feel like to you the first time it became like measurable by metric? But because I feel like we lived through something like unique, man. Like nowadays, like folks they're born into it, but we kind of transitioned in, and then the ones who kind of made it with decent mental health are either like in it and flourishing or have like kind of transitioned like back out. But as far as I can remember, I think that's the first time I remember the feeling like there's a visual analytical data that would determine kind of your popularity there.
yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think MySpace was probably like the lead, lead runner in that as far as that, because like you said, nowadays they're almost born into this, all of these nowadays, these teenagers. It feels old saying that because I'm only 29, but I feel like I'm like 59 when I start talking to these kids because
Yeah.
it's like how am I like, you know, or how am I like not able to understand what some of y'all are saying. Like here a few episodes ago, like I did an episode on like millennial, like the way we talk, and then like I also did one on like Gen Z like terminology. And there were some things on there I was thinking, what on earth does this mean? Like this is definitely very confusing. I'm still trying to remember like some of these words like so again, trying to keep up with these people that are living in social media, the social media era where they were born into Facebook already being here and Instagram being here. And now here we are even with TikTok. And then I know at one point there was an app called Vine that everybody was into, the 6 second little
Yeah.
clips. So, so there's it is definitely, different. And I guess our time, when we were growing up, like the first little bit of our life, there really wasn't social media. But then once we got into our like teen years, that's where kind of MySpace started happening. YouTube started, getting into the game as well. So yeah, it definitely does show that, social media can, play a big role in that. And then as far from me when I was a kid, I guess before social media, I used to want to have like this idea of wanting to be popular or wanting people to know me, but I guess like one problem for me was that I was very shy and very quiet to where I guess I was too scared to talk to people. I don't know if it was because of just a fear of being like rejected or snubbed or like kind of ignored, um or what. But now that I'm older, I there are still moments where I keep that where if I'm being honest, I still think like, okay, well this TikTok post is going to, hopefully this is going to get a lot of likes. So hopefully this is going to get a lot of views. So I still even nowadays, if I'm, being totally honest, that I have moments where I still am striving for that, even though I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, but how would you differentiate like between, because it's interesting as I heard you speaking, how would you differentiate between being popular and being kind of loved, or yeah, I don't want to denigrate it to liked, because I think loved can stand up there next to put like popularity, but often on the playground we'd say liked, right?
Hmm.
And as it grows, it maybe turns into love. But so it's interchangeable. But would you differentiate between the two things, being popular and being loved and liked by a lot of people, or does that seem like the same thing?
That's actually a really good question. I think that they almost do, sometimes it does seem like they do go together, like they go hand in hand, but sometimes they do differentiate. They are different in some cases because, because you do want, to, because it's definitely, for people out here, thinking that if I'm, if I sound like I'm saying that you shouldn't be loved or or anything like that, or loved for your content, on social media, for example, then I mean, like I say, yeah, it is a really hard one because I think that it is like a fine line there, like where they both can kind of fall into like the gray area, and where I guess if you yeah, that's a really good question because I can really see how, you can be on that spectrum of being loved, but then at the same time, I guess maybe not letting the popularity get to your head, maybe, or if you maybe it's just an idea of being humble or being prideful kind of thing. I don't know if that kind of ties into it as well, but that definitely is a really good question, and that definitely is one that I that we should all consider when it comes to popularity because I feel like being loved is not really, that's a really good thing, of course, is being loved and stuff like that. But then when I start thinking of popularity, I don't know why. I guess some reason I feel like both, like the words, like when I think of popularity, I think of it having like a negative like vibe to it. But then when I think of love, of course, you think of a more positive. But sometimes there is good popularity out there if you are like for example, like both of us are Christians, like we think of like Apostle Paul, we think of Jesus Christ, of course. So we think of like these people that were not popular back in their days, and even here nowadays, this crazy world we live in, they're not so
Mhm.
popular either. But
Yeah,
they are loved by many as well, people like us and people like that are in the Christian faith. So yeah, there's a very fine line there, I feel like, and that even ties to whether it was way back in the biblical days when Jesus was walking here on earth, or even now.
yeah,
So
and I think that feels like the crux of it. There's this weird because there are some words used for this point in terms of famous versus infamous. It's just that nobody wants the infamous title, or to some extent the notorious title. Um, but they all kind of feed into this same thing. In that I feel like I've always had, I say always, for a reasonable time period, I've had like a lot of followers, like tens of thousands and whatnot. Um, but I've also been conscious throughout the whole time in terms of like I might get fan mail or things like that. But I'm under no illusion that if I stopped creating content in whichever form and such, there might be like a few people to reach out, but that will quickly dry up, and then I'll probably never hear I'll probably never hear from these people again. And so like Yeah, I guess where does that drop on the popularity scale? Somewhere, but who knows, right?